Looking at the head of the side, a beauty that you cannot deny. Oh, I love the Serengeti as I watch the sunrise. No matter where you're coming from, there's so much drink that's done. Africa, yeah, Mama Africa. So much to look at, so much you can invest. Can't even look back. Africa is the best. So much to look at, so much you can invest. Can't even look back. Africa is the best. Free Ethiopia, Mama Kibuna. Africa's mine and forever. Free Ethiopia, Mama Kibuna. Africa's mine and forever.
Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Lizzabitty channel. Now, we have a treat for you today. Now, I have gone on to tell this young lady, yes, that, she is a little famous now. I'm feeling some kind of way that I know her. So, but before we bring our guest on, we're going to go through some facts that maybe you likely did not know about Ghana. So I want to thank you for joining. A few housekeeping rules before we get started. As you enter, please hit the like button. My night bot will be coming in and he will be making some messages. See what he says, and let's get to it. All right, so here we go. The first order of business here. Ghana is the world's largest second producer of cocoa. If you didn't know that. Okay? So these are some fun facts. Number two, it houses West Africa's largest open air market. Okay? Yes. Third fact, the seat of the Ashanti Empire. I think many of you already knew that though. Yeah, I think so. Number four, the first country for sub-Saharan Africa to gain independence. Now, I don't necessarily like using that in terms of the phrase sub-Saharan. It's a popular coin phrase. We'll come up with something else. But for right now, this is what we have. Okay. Number five. One war for Ghana in the last 77 years. Yeah, so this makes it attractive to those of you in the diaspora. Uh-huh. Number six. The Ghanaian currency is known as the cedi. It's actually a type of shell. Ooh. Did you know that? Put a one in the chat if you knew that. Okay. Number seven. Lake Volta in Ghana is one of the largest man-made lakes in the world. Yes. If you did not know that. We're trying to give some good facts here today, okay? Number eight. Country is the world's seventh largest producer of gold. Of gold. All right? And the final fact of the day, before we bring on our special guest, is that Ghana's name means warrior king. All right? Warrior king. So let's bring in our guest and we're going to get started. As you know how we do, I will have some questions across the screen and she will give us some great insight and input. Let's bring her on. Hello.
Hey, Liz, girl, how are you?
I am fine. How are you doing?
I am good. I'm being lazy on this Sunday morning. Thanks for having me on your
Of
show.
course. It is your right to be lazy. You can be lazy. This is fine. This is fine. Before we
Yes.
get started, why don't you just give us some little insight into yourself and then we will get started. Tell us about yourself and all of that good stuff.
So, my American name is Sonjai Davis, but I am now known as Ajua. I am from Washington, D.C. My family is from Oklahoma. I am a descendant of survivors of the Tulsa race riots. And I have been living in Ghana for the past year, almost a year and a half now, and I love it. It has been an interesting journey. I am a licensed therapist. I have a practice based in Washington, D.C., and I also do dating and relationship coaching for women who are preparing to come to Africa from the diaspora, helping them, transition safely, understanding cultural differences and norms, and also understanding the dating and relationship norms because they're quite different. And so, what else? I do a lot of
Well,
things.
I got some questions, but we're gonna hold that one because those are
Okay,
some nuggets. We're gonna get to that later on in
okay,
our discussion here.
okay,
So I'm gonna put some questions across the screen, and then you
okay,
can give us some insight. So here we go with the first question.
okay. How did you come to live in Ghana? Oh, wow. Okay. So I was planning to leave America. I had a 5-year plan, which I started in 2015, 16. Then I got married and then got divorced in less than 2 years. And then so I resumed my plans to leave the country and I just started traveling. I was traveling all over the place. It was Europe, Cuba, Caribbean, pretty much everywhere. And I was planning to go to South Africa, and then a trip popped up on my Facebook timeline to Ghana. Ghana was nowhere near on my radar. I hadn't thought about it or anything, but it was a business connector like tour. So I was like, okay, I'm always into business, looking for opportunities, and so I signed up for it. So I didn't know anything about the year of return, and but it was part of the year of return. So packed my bags, came to Ghana, and it was the best 10, 12 days of my life. And it really changed my life, changed, my like what I had planned to do. And so I had made a lot of friends on the trip, made a lot of connections on the trip. So I went back to the States and I was going to give myself another 2 years to prepare. And something told me like I needed to get ready sooner, and I had already put my I had already been telling my clients I'm going to go fully online because I was planning to just be nomadic. And so I did that, and then when I came back from Ghana in January, I was due to have surgery and I was going to be home on bed rest for 8 weeks. So during that time, I just gave me a lot of time to sit and reflect. I was sitting in my big old 3-story house in DC, and I just started thinking, why am I staying here? What am I doing? Like this I have all of this. I've checked all the boxes that, American society says you're supposed to check, educated, career, house, car, married, divorce, all of the I had done everything. And I'm like, why am I still sitting here? What am I waiting for? So as soon as I was medically released, during the time I was just still, on bed rest, I had a friend here in Ghana look for me an apartment. And I said, okay, my business was already online. So I knew I was going to, be able to make money. So I said, you know what, I'm leaving. So I set the goal date for April 1st. I was medically released the end of February. As soon as the doctor said, okay, you're all right, I started packing up my house. And I was, getting ready to leave. And then the borders, the COVID hit. The borders closed in Ghana, like, was it March 24th or something like
Mm-hmm.
that, just a few days before I was supposed to get on the plane. And so I ended up kind of being homeless in DC for a while. I was stayed with a friend. And then I was terrified of getting stuck in America because they kept prolonging the reopening of the border. So I ended up leaving and just going to Ethiopia. And I stayed in Ethiopia until the borders opened. So I was there for a little over a month or so.
Wow. I mean, I typically move that fast sometimes, but typically I'll have something planned out in the back of my brain.
Hmm.
So that was pretty fast, especially like you said, you were having bed rest on the doctor's care, and you said, "Hey, it's time to go. It's time to go."
Yeah.
Okay. Cue number two.
Mhm.
Tell us about your lifestyle in Ghana, your day-to-day life, cost of living, healthcare, if you have experienced that there. Give us some insight into that.
Okay, those are really good questions. So my day-to-day life is pretty much like it was in America. I have my business. I do online. I have an office because I have a nonprofit. So in Ghana, you have to have an office space in order to operate or be approved for a nonprofit. So I do have an office, and sometimes I go there, and sometimes I just work from home. So I only work 3 days a week: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So Friday through Monday is free time. I go, go hang out with friends, dinner, drinks, clubs, bars, live music, whatever is happening, because there's always, always, always something happening in Ghana. Um, and I, do dinner. I hang out with my family. I have an adopted family here. I've been like legally adopted by a family. So I do things with my family. I have two brothers. I hang out with them all the time. I have a niece and nephews. So it's really just, the same as, it would have been if I were in the States, except for the family part. I didn't have much family in the States. So cost of living, that right there, that is like, a huge debate amongst the expat community. But for me, I would say it was the greatest decision for me to move here, because my cost of living for the month generally, it equates to about $600 a month, compared to I was paying nearly $4,500 a month for living expenses in America. So it is definitely different, a lot more economical for me. And also, like setting up, and I want to be realistic for people, when you are getting set up, it is expensive. Because when you get an apartment, like most apartments are, if you get an unfurnished apartment, they don't come with like appliances. They don't come with like air conditioning, fans. Some do, the newer places do, but an older place, you have to buy all of that stuff. So you have to be prepared to, purchase those things. But, after the first year or two, when you really get settled, then your expenses definitely go down. But getting set up can be a bit expensive, realistically. Healthcare. So when I first left America, I bought a international healthcare plan, because like I said, I had planned to be nomadic and just kind of travel to many different places. But COVID just put a niche in that plan. So I was paying about $545 a month for an international healthcare plan. Crazy thing about that is it didn't cover me if I was in America. And if I were to add America, this tells you how bad America's healthcare is. If I were to add America, it would have almost doubled my monthly cost. But so with the healthcare plan I had, I could go anywhere in the world, and plus, being here in Ghana, it would cover any expenses, like cancer care, everything. Also, like if I were to pass away, it would cover like my transporting my body back to America. It would cover like if I was in a hospital long term. It would cover like one family member coming from the States and coming to take care of me. It was a very comprehensive plan. It was really great, and it was only the gold level. They have a platinum level plan. I don't even remember what was covered with that, all of that, but it was a really good plan. But once I got settled here in Ghana, I realized that healthcare is pretty inexpensive. So like I just did like my annual physical, and it was the equivalent of about $150, I think. I want it's 700 CD, so that's about $150 for everything: blood work, gynecological exam. And then the other day, I just went to the dentist, and my dental visit, my biannual visit, it was what was it, $100 for my cleaning, and then I had to go get X-rays, and that was So 100 CDs. Oh, so it was 100 CDs, so it's equivalent of a little less than $20 for X-rays.
Mhm.
And then I'm getting braces. I'm going to have to get braces put back on, and that's going to cost me the equivalent of $2,500 altogether. But you can do like it's like the equivalent of $600 down, and then you pay 1,000 CDs, which is I forget. Is what's 1,000 CDs? I forget a month until for like 10 months until it's paid off, or like I said, it's 2,500 altogether. I could just pay it all at one time. So that's kind of an idea of what healthcare costs. And then the great thing is too is like if you have prescription drugs that you use regularly, you can just go to a pharmacy and they pretty much have whatever that you need, and you don't need a prescription. I have one prescription that I take every day, and my local pharmacist, like they didn't carry it regularly, but now she knows that I have to take it every day, so she keeps it stocked for me. So if you make friends with your local pharmacist, whatever medication you need, they'll get it for you and they'll keep it in stock for you. So
Okay, so that was great. Now let me ask you this, since we were
mhm,
talking about healthcare.
mhm,
The healthcare that you have, are you able? So let's say you went to Ethiopia, uh, South Africa, Kenya. Would that plan allow you to use it there, or is it specifically geared towards Ghana?
so no, the insurance plan I had, it was international, anywhere in the world except for the United States.
Okay, so in all transparency, I do have a what I call an Exodus guide, and the company that I list in this guide, it's the same thing. The premiums are very reasonable
Hmm.
once you exclude the US, because we all know how the US system
Isn't
of
that
insurance
crazy?
and medical is. Isn't that
Yeah,
interesting?
it's
Like you
crazy.
could go to France, all these other places
Anywhere in the world.
as what, except, yes, except the
Hmm.
US. They will
Now,
not cover you there.
now the plan that I had though, if I was in the U.S. and had an emergency, they would cover an emergency visit, emergency room visit.
Okay, okay. Well, that's
Yeah,
good to know. That's good to
yeah,
know.
yeah. They will cover that, but any routine stuff, no.
Now, something also you mentioned when you talk about how we are not accustomed to paying rent up front in terms
Oh,
of a lump sum all at once.
mm-hmm.
I think that many of us that are in the diaspora that are coming on are going to have to find ourselves getting accustomed to things
Yeah,
in that way. One, because they're not credit heavy societies.
right.
And so, as you know for yourself, anytime you have a credit heavy society, if you
Mm-hmm.
don't pay, then they're going to put it on however their credit reporting system is.
Yep,
And on the
yep.
continent, you don't have it that way, and
Mm-hmm.
except unless you're down in South Africa. So because they have their system, which is more so geared towards a Western version of
Exactly,
healthcare. I mean, a
exactly.
Western version of credit, if you will.
Yeah.
So that was a good point for you to mention as well. All right, great insight. Okay, here we go to number
Mhm.
3. Let's go.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, okay. So this is an interesting one. Okay.
Yes.
So
Okay.
people always ask about, how, locals view diasporans. It's almost like anywhere else you go, how people feel about, immigrants coming into their country. It depends on the individual, it depends on class and education. So you have those who are upper class, who have traveled or who have lived abroad, and they have experienced racism in America or in the UK, which there's a lot of expats or repatriates coming from the UK as well as the US, moving back because they're tired of, the foolishness in the UK. So those people are, very happy to have us coming back because they understand that we're coming back with resources, not just monetary. And a lot of people get stuck on, oh, they just want your money, or they just want your money. But we're coming back with a lot of knowledge. And that knowledge, if we all come together, put all of our resources together, can help Africa, be a much more viable place to be. Then you have those people who are maybe a little, middle class or lower middle class, And so they're a mixed bag. You have some who understand our history, and then you have those who, don't know and don't understand. Something that I've been learning is that, they get very limited information about, the slave trade. And then many of them, if they have access to our media, they see what they look at what they see in music videos and movies, and they think that that's what America is. And there's a lot of education that I have to give a lot of times about that how those things are not realistic. And so I have to really help them understand the realities of the Black experience in America. And so a lot of them are blown away. You just talked about credit and in money. And so they I had to educate a taxi driver one day, and he was talking about, oh yeah, everybody in America's got those big houses and cars, and so on and so forth. And I said to him, I said, do you understand that most people don't own those things? They are owned by the bank, and as soon as you don't make a payment, that stuff is gone. So he was like, what are you talking about? They don't own that stuff. I said, no. Yeah, you can say, oh, I have a house, but at the end of the day, the house really belongs to the bank until you pay that mortgage off. And still, if after that, if you don't pay the taxes on the land, then you can lose your house. So I said, here you pay for everything outright, and it's yours. Nobody's going to take it away from you. It is never going to go anywhere. Nobody's going to come and say, oh, you didn't pay such and such. They will never take anything away from you. So he was just blown away by that. And so, it's interesting that they just don't understand like credit. They don't understand like how we obtain things in America. And I'm like, sweetie, the average American is poor. We don't have money. We do not have money. You don't think everybody's rich and the money grows on trees. It does not. We are poor. That's why we leaving and coming over here so our little dollars can stretch a little bit further. So
No,
but
that is
then and
great
then you
insight.
have then you have the locals who have never been exposed. More of the village dwellers and so forth. You have some that don't like the fact that we're coming, especially and it's almost like you get the same rhetoric you hear in America, about the Mexicans or whatever, and they feel like, oh, they're coming, they're going to take our jobs. Well, first of all, we can't take jobs because we unless we do all the necessary things to pay and get a work visa. But it's like they don't, because they just don't understand. They don't understand how immigration works. They've never been in those shoes. So it's the same thing, how Americans don't understand how immigration works because you've never had to deal with immigration. So they don't know you can't work, you can't do anything, there's no public services, no welfare here. So it's like we have to come with resources in order to sustain ourselves. So we're not taking anything away from them, but they don't understand it. They don't know how the system works. And so mostly everyone I know, they've come back and they've started businesses and they're creating jobs for the locals. That is our mission. So
It is so interesting when you talk about the exposure of continental Africans and the ideologies that they have in here that are so far fetched and unrealistic.
yeah.
But as you know for yourself, being from America, this is predicated upon mainstream media.
Yes. Very
Jerry
much so.
Rawlins years ago made a
Hmm.
speech about the Western media and what it
Yeah.
does
Yeah.
and how it taints the minds of the continental African.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
since it's so embedded in here, it's like, okay, well, Dr. Davis is saying it, but this TV with millions of people over here is saying it. I can't believe what she says, even though
What
she
I'm
comes
saying.
from there. I got to
Exactly.
believe what the TV says. And just like,
Exactly. Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
that's how it goes.
No.
And
Yeah.
so it's good for us when we do come onto the continent that we help to dispel
Yeah.
a lot of these misconceptions
Mhm. Mhm.
because they
Mhm.
hold on to them because just like you said, a lot of them who are not necessarily educated, if they had never left their own country,
Mhm.
they still think this way when we know that that is just not the
That's
truth
not
at
true. Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Totally agree with you. Now,
Hmm.
someone had a question down here in the chat. We will get
Okay.
to your questions later at
Okay.
the end. So please hold those, everyone who's watching, and thank you for watching. Let's move on to our next question. Here we go.
Okay. Oh, some obstacles about living in Ghana. Okay. So I have to say that I have been truly blessed that I have a great team around me. So, but one obstacle is that you can't do anything unless you have Ghanaians or locals in your circle. Also, one obstacle about being a woman in business is that though the Ashantis are matrilineal, um, in general, men do are the face of business, in the face of just getting things done. So I'm lucky that I have my two brothers that are my face of everything. So literally, we have an agreement like they go out and do whatever I need them to do to get things done for the business. We just kind of sort of have a family business, and I stay home and make the money to keep to get the businesses going. Most people know about the corruption, and you gotta slide some CDs here, slide some there to get things done. That is one of the challenges. But once you get all of your paperwork in order, once you get whatever you need, in order to get yourself established here, they pretty much they leave you alone. Nobody bothers you as long as your papers are in order. You're good to go. Another challenge I would say is, I want to say traffic, but I come from a metropolis city where traffic, I'm used to traffic. But for some people who may come from a more rural area in the States and is not used to traffic, it could be a little harrowing. And they're terrible drivers. Oh my goodness. But I have to say, they're better than those in Ethiopia. Ethiopian drivers are the worst that I've seen, even in some Asian countries, and we all, know the stereotype of Asians being bad drivers. But though for me, those are like the two biggest things. But like I said, you make sure you have enough money to start out with, and then make sure you have something to give you, residual income when you're coming. It does cost a lot to get started and get established. Make a plan about what you want to do once you get here, and understand how you what you need to do in order to get those things going. And like I said, having a team. I tell people all the time, don't just jump up and just move here. You need to have a team. You need to visit a few times. You need to establish like good people around you that are going to be there to help support you. So that I can't tell you, that is the most essential. Having a residual income and having a team are the two things that you need the most in order to make it here in Ghana or any other African country. I'm telling you, it's pretty much the same throughout.
I would totally agree with you. People, and you have anomalies with people being, as Sharice says, flighty and
Hmm.
doing things at the drop. And sometimes they may be successful, whereas others do the same and they're not, and they have to
Right.
return back from whence they come.
Right.
And I'm just like you. Well, in that I am the ultimate planner.
Hmm.
In doing risk analysis and all of this, I'm trying to see about what ifs.
Hmm.
And so when you talked about having that money, that upfront money,
Hmm.
that is very, very important. That needs to be included in your budget.
Yep.
And the same thing in this guide that I have, it talks about you having your upfront monies,
Yep.
because whatever the fees are for residency,
Yep.
working
Right.
permits, etc., that
Yep.
is for each individual person. That's not for
Yep.
a whole group. That's
Nope.
so if you
It's
have a family of five, two
mm-hmm.
adults and three children,
Yep.
you're going to multiply that times three in
Yep.
terms of residency. Not
Yep.
necessarily working, but just in terms of residency. I don't
Yep.
think people understand that.
Right. Right.
And how you also mentioned on even on the previous question, since continental Africans do not understand what it means in terms of the immigration process,
Mm-hmm.
that is money,
That is
especially
right.
coming from the West. Their fees are not as exorbitant as they are. Let's say if you're trying to get to the UK, trying to get to Europe, trying to get to the US of A, they're
U.S.
not
Right?
uh,
They're not.
as expensive,
And I
but
can
they
I
are
say, like
costly,
my residency and work permit process cost me about $1,500.
and that's cheap.
Yeah, it's cheap, but still, I mean, for some people that might
No,
be a
no,
lot
no.
of money,
Agreed, but I mean, as a
compared
person
to
who
the
does not live in the
Mhm,
U.S., as you know, I'm
mhm.
in the UAE.
Yeah.
$1,500 is your application fee.
Yeah.
That does
Yeah.
not include your medical.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then if you want what they call a multi-tier residency, like let's say you want a 2 year, 5 year, etc.,
Mhm, mhm.
all that is too predicated upon your age and how much real estate you got in this country.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, of course,
And
the
that
more
and,
you
that,
have
and you're
invested,
right,
the
because
better off
that's
you can
just
be.
1 year. That you're right. That's just 1 year.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So people need to put that in their budget and stop
Yep.
living a pipe dream. She's not deterring you from what she's saying, but you need to be
Mm-mm.
planning
Mm-hmm.
accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
Be a planner. Be a
Yep.
planner.
Yep.
All right, great. Let's
Mm-hmm.
move on to number 5.
Okay, let's see. Let's talk about do in Ghana to make the transition. Oh, okay. Well, so we kind of already started that. So making the transition smoother, like I said, number one, making sure that you have finance, your finances are in order, that you have residual income, because one of the biggest mistakes people make coming here is they think they're going to live high on the hog off of savings. They may have, $20,000, $30,000 saved up, but that goes fast. I'm gonna tell you. Um, the second thing, like I said, is having a team, having people to help you manage all of the legalities. That means your visa, renewal, knowing what the renewal process is. Working to get your residency. If you plan to, work, you have to, be able to get a work permit. And I am a business owner, so this was a little different process than me going to find someone that I can work for, and then they help sponsor me for work visa. But I'm a business owner. I registered my business. You can register a business without being a resident or a citizen. But in order to actually do work, I have to apply for a work permit. So I had to literally have my partners, my Ghanaian partners, sponsor me, write a letter on my behalf, even though I'm the business owner, and submit all this paperwork and so forth for them to give me a work visa to work for my own company. So it's just kind of weird. Um, Also, let's see, making the transition smoother would be for you to just have an idea of where you want to live in the country of your choice. I always encourage people that they come, if they don't have someone on the ground to find a place for them. What I did was even though I had someone find a place for me, I still didn't trust this person completely. So what I did was, instead of coming, landing and going straight to that apartment, I got an Airbnb for a month. And that gave me time to sit still. It gave me time to go to the place where they had found for me. I also looked at other places. I had my brother, is the one that found the place that I have for me. And so I'm glad I did that, because I almost got scammed. So this is, you have to, don't pack your brains in your suitcase. I used to be a flight attendant. We always said, people pack their brains in their suitcases because they do just some crazy stuff. You always got to be on guard. You're in a totally different country. And the thing is, unfortunately, another thing that makes a transition a little difficult is that the police are not like the police in America or the UK or whatever. If you have a complaint or somebody scam you or somebody do something, they might take you seriously, they might not. So you just running the risk. So you've always got to be on guard, not to the point where you just distrust everybody, but because you got to let some people in order to get the help you need. But don't just jump into something like, I knew some, I was just like, okay, this guy, I had met him. He was cool through the tour group that I was with. He was one of the tour guides. But come to find out, like everybody else was friends. He was kind of a last add on, and not everybody really knew him. So he got the apartment for me and everything. He did everything I asked him to do. He didn't misuse my money or anything, but there was some other shady stuff that was going on. And I kind of thank COVID for this, that I didn't come straight away, because it gave me time to kind of like watch him a little bit more from afar, and I was able to assess, something's not 100% right with the situation. I booked my Airbnb, like I said, for a month. I sat still, and then I was able to find another place on my own with the help of my brother, who I really trusted.
You know,
So I don't
yeah.
know. I think you have to decide what you want for your life too.
Mhm.
Like, do you want a more rural living experience? I'm a city girl. I've lived in a major city all my life: New York, DC, Las Vegas, California. I'm a city girl. So I knew I wanted to be in the city, but also too, I kind of found a place. Living right in the middle of a crock is expensive, because most expats want to live there. So my brother helped me find a place that's a little bit further out. People are amazed at how much I pay for rent, but I'm still in the city. Takes me 30 minutes to get to all the hot spots and do what I want to do. Maybe an hour if there's traffic. But nightlife is nightlife. I mean, it's we do it up here in Accra, honey.
Yes, you do.
It's almost like DC, New York up in this place. So it's so I'm out there. I was a socialite in DC. I'm a socialite here. So
Facts.
it really depends on what you want for your life. And I think that despite what media says about Africa, Africa is lit. Okay, and
Hmm.
it can
Hmm.
be if you want it to be. And
Hmm.
whatever you want here, the only thing that I have trouble with is food. I miss
Hmm.
the variety of food.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
I was just explaining to my brother the other day. I said, see, America is such a melting pot that you have so many different types of food available to you. Whereas here, you got your local food, and you might have Italian or Chinese, but that's pretty much it as far as diversity of food. So,
Okay.
things are changing. Like, people are vegans. There's a lot of vegan and vegetarian
Hmm.
restaurants
Hmm.
opening. It's so there's a lot going on. I was like surprised this morning. I woke up, I found there's a puppy yoga class. I'm like, oh, I
Mm.
need some puppies in my life. So pretty much anything you want, you can almost find. Yeah, you can find it.
Okay, all right, that was good. But I totally agree with you. It's all about your preferences in
Mhm.
terms of where you want to live and all that, and what you're
Mhm.
willing to pay. Because see,
Mhm.
people feel like, well, they can't have all these amenities that they have wherever they are, they're coming
Mhm.
from. You can,
Right.
but
Yes,
you're
you
gonna have to
can.
pay.
Yes, you
Because
can.
it's just like in the West too. If I wanted to live, let's say, well, you lived in D.C., the premium that I'd have to add on to what I would, let's say, pay in Houston, is there's going to be a difference.
Yeah,
There's
definitely.
going to be a difference. So it's no
Yep.
different than moving to a different country.
Yep.
And I think a
Definitely.
lot of times people don't factor that into it.
Right.
If they move from one neighborhood to the other,
Mhm.
depending on how upscale that area is, you're going to pay a
Mhm.
premium.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
think people are not getting that.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is an
Yeah.
international move.
Yeah.
It's
And
going to be the same and then some.
yeah, the funny thing, like the area that I'm in, is an up and coming area. I mean, like they're building all over the place. And so I'm sure that the rent's going to go up, but it's a really nice, it's a, like a middle class area, working class people. And so it's really nice. And the only thing I miss is hot water. Like this
Hmm.
place doesn't have hot water heater.
Hmm. Hmm.
But you learn to adapt, and like that is just one thing out of what I'm accustomed to having.
Agreed. Okay, so I have this number six industries that
Mhm.
could thrive. Just give us let's say three or four that you think that could thrive in
Okay.
Ghana.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to go off this list that I got when I first got here and what sold me on moving to Ghana. So there was in this business seminar I attended, this guy actually just spilled out exactly what industries you can go into in Ghana. Auto industry, importing cars, is a big industry. There's also in with that is it auto mechanic. Excuse me, look, I got tongue tied. I know a young lady. She was importing auto parts, and I think she just opened an auto mechanic school. They need really good qualified mechanics here. So if you have anything to do with automobiles, mechanics, or whatever, that would be a great business to go into. Of course, beauty industry. Africans are all about being beautiful and keeping their beauty. So anything to do with the beauty industry. Also, what else? Restaurants, of course, beverages, and then waste management. Now, this is something that really needs to be improved in the country. I know there was a young lady who came here and she has a waste management company, but Ghana is huge. So I'm sure she can only cover so much. But waste management, if you have any ideas about recycling, helping the country with recycling, and just cleanup, regular street cleanup and things like that, that would be a great business. Solar panels are big, but this is one thing that I've heard about solar panels. It's a little challenging to have them because it's so dusty here. It The dust covers the solar panels, so it impacts the way that they work. So if you can come up with some type of way to keep like a cleaning service, to keep the solar panels clean, so people who have them can get the most out of their panels, that would be great. Also, what's lacking here is family entertainment. Like, they don't have amusement parks here. There is one place that just opened a little water park, which is great. But things for the families to do, like I've been struggling to figure out what to do with my niece and nephews. So they have one place, one like miniature golf place. Like I said, someone just opened a water park. But I know there was like some people who were thinking about getting together to get funds together to do an amusement park. So things like that. So those are some of the top industries. So if you can, find ways to jump into that or have new and innovative ideas with that, those are like the best things to get into.
I find family entertainment huge across the continent, not necessarily just to Ghana,
Yeah.
but just across
Yeah.
the continent.
Yeah.
Um, because you know for yourself, even when you go by a lot of the rural areas, I mean,
Hmm.
the children are accustomed to different types of playing than, let's say, how you and I grew up.
Right.
And
Right.
so there is a need for that. And again, it's not just only in Ghana. So
Yeah.
great points. And I typed those into the chat so people could see
Okay.
them too for the
Awesome.
replay. All right, let's get to number 7 because we got 10 and then we take a
Okay.
few
That's
questions.
good.
Okay, number 7, here we go. How would people prepare themselves to move live in Ghana? I think you covered a few points when you talk about budget,
Hmm.
but since you are a therapist, give us
Yes.
some insight about planning themselves before they even do all that. Because
Yes.
also that's in my guide. Go ahead. I'm going to let
Okay.
you.
I'm glad it's in your guide, Liz, because my number one, yes, I am a therapist, so I'm all about mental health and self care. And my number one in preparing to leave the United States, whether you're coming to Ghana or going anywhere else, Portugal or wherever you decide you want to go, is go to therapy. Go to therapy. um, it is essential that you confront the trauma of being in America. We don't realize how traumatized we are until we get out of a situation. And I have seen firsthand what happens when people don't confront that trauma. They come to these countries, number one, expecting things to be a certain way. Many people want to bring America with them to Africa. You can't do that. You've got to come with a very open mind. You have to come with um, the idea that you're going to live a different life. You need to change the life that you've been living in order to embrace the new life that the universe has planned for you. So, even though, yes, there's a lot of things that I do that are similar in the States, the fact that I came with an open mind with no expectations, it made my transition so much easier. And then along the way, I started finding the things that I was accustomed to that I still liked about my life in the States. But definitely go to therapy. You've got to let go of all the trauma that you have endured in the States. I didn't even realize how traumatized I was. And I'm a therapist and I have all the coping skills. I know all the stuff to do. But I didn't even realize how traumatized I was until I had my first encounter with the police in Ethiopia. And then I was like, wow, so then also, like I said, budget. What is your plan? Do you, think about, what your needs, your wants and needs are. Really think about what your needs are, and then you can think about your wants later. What are your basics? Housing. What do you require for housing? Luckily, I'm a single person, so I didn't have to worry about anybody else. But I had to think about my safety as a woman. But then I realized once I got here, like I didn't, the things that I worry about as far as my safety in America, don't have to worry about here. But like I said, I encourage people to visit at least a couple of times. Really get a lay of the land, figure out what part of the city or what part of the country really that you want to live in. Some people like the big city, so Accra is great. Some people want a moderate, city. Kumasi is great. Some people don't want to do the city at all. So the northern region is wonderful. So you have to decide what is best for you. What do you want to shed from living in America? There are some things that you just have to let go of. And because those things aren't really serving you well. Okay. So then I really want people to just consider what type of support system you want. What type of people do you want to be around? And that's important as to, what type of events or types of things that you get involved in. There's so many different things to do here. So you can, do the high life and, celebrities and social life, or you can do, just regular. There's a weekly beach cleanup, if you're into really, being into environmental stuff. There's lots of that going on here. I always say Ghana is kind of like a generation behind us in America in most things, but they're catching up, and that's the great thing about so many people moving back. Moving from the diaspora is they're bringing all these resources and ideas. So all these things are coming together, and every day I'm so surprised at just what's going on in the country, and I'm loving it. It's great being a part of this change.
Totally. Now I want to expand just briefly. When you talk about mental health, for
Hmm.
those of people who watching now will catch the replay. So let's say I come to Ghana,
Hmm.
and I need some mental health resources. Is there a community within Ghana that can assist me if I say, "Oh, I want to find a therapist"?
Yes, it's
Okay.
growing. So, like I said, Ghana's like, maybe a generation behind. So, how we all thought, and especially in the Black, community, we don't go to no therapist. You go to Jesus, you go pray about it, whatever. It's starting to shift. Even, as Ghana is a very, Christian, religious, country, that's even starting to shift. You have more people who are kind of like, I'm okay, without church, or I really need real services. So I do a guest appearance on a local radio show just talking about mental health. And so it's something definitely that's the conversations are happening. So generally mental health was reserved for government hospitals and so forth. And if you had an issue, you went to the hospital, they admitted you. It was kind of a barbaric for a little while, but now they're starting to be more open to therapy and individual services, especially with a large and growing middle class. So people are starting to really understand the need for self care. I have a friend; she does monthly exercise retreats. They're really great, and we talk about self care and things like that. So if you come to Ghana and you need a therapist, so there are, I think, three of us from the states who do coaching. We have to do coaching as opposed to therapy per se. Um, because of licensing, but you do benefit from someone that you're able to talk to that will understand you. But there's also individual practitioners here. There's not many, but it's growing. And there's one clinic that I found, and they're doing traditional therapy and so forth. They're locals that run the clinic. One thing that I hope to work on is having an easier chance of, or an easier path to licensure, or for us coming from the diaspora. But there are services here, and I definitely can connect people if they need anything.
Okay, that's great because that's good information to know because people would likely be wondering. All right,
Mhm.
let's move on to number 8. Can you give us a few myths about Ghana just to clear them up?
Oh, do they
Just
always
little.
do they all have to be like positive? Like
No. I want you to speak your truth. Trust me. If you catch the last one I had from Madagascar, Lisa blew the top off.
really, I'm a truth
Oh, yes.
teller. I am a truth teller.
Speak
So
it.
people might be really upset with me. But one myth about Ghana, people say, oh, Ghanaians are so friendly and they're the nicest people, blah, blah, blah. That's bullshit. Oh, I don't know if I can curse on here.
Now you know how my
They're
mouth is.
nice,
Drop
yes.
it, baby. Drop it.
They can be nice, yes. But let me tell you, if somebody calls you um a brony, that's not a nice term. That's almost like being called the N word. And you'll hear it thrown around. So this is the thing that I learned about Ghanaians is that Ghanaians they are raised to not say no. Okay. So that no can be no, I cannot do something. No, I don't know the information that you need. No, I don't know the directions. They don't like to be wrong. They don't like to be held accountable for things. So that comes in many different forms. Now, I'm not saying that everybody's malicious. I'm not saying that they are just set out to be mean or disrespectful or anything like that. But if you understand how not setting boundaries and not saying no can manifest itself, it can make one look like they are like very not dependable, that they're maybe scamming. There are a lot of little innuendos and little things that you start to learn about the people. Once you learn that, that was like the most valuable information that someone gave me, and it came from a Ghanaian who was raised in New York, but she came back every year for the summer. And I was frustrated with a lot of the way that the people operated here. And because I'm a therapist, I see things that a lot of people don't see. So I was seeing some stuff, and I'm like, oh, this is just some messy stuff. But when she's told me, she's like, they are not raised. They are raised to never say no. It started making sense, and I started being able to put the pieces together and understand their behavior. So I'm a behaviorist, y'all. So excuse me. So like I said, I see things that other people just generally don't see. So that is just like one myth. Another myth about Ghana is that they're I think this could go for Africa in general, but that it's not industrialized, or that there's no nice areas and they don't have paved roads and things like that. One of the biggest complaints I hear about people all the time is like, why do they only show dirt roads in media? And if anyone saw my CBS News interview, that was a question that came up because the road that I live on actually is dirt, but what people don't know is it is a very busy road, and there's a bridge there, and they are actually working on the bridge and reinforcing the bridge, and so the road is now dirt because they're trying to fix the whole road. So unfortunately, they caught it in the middle of construction. There is lots of construction going on. There is lots of industrialized buildings. It's a beautiful city. But yeah, so that's a myth. Like it's very modern here. I don't know. I can't think of any other myths. Liz, can you think of something else that might
Um, I will defer. However, I want to say, because people seem to think that when you come out with your own nuances about something, that
come?
it is not, or they think that it's different.
Mm-hmm.
A person can only speak from the shoes in which they're wearing.
True.
Okay,
True.
a person can only speak from the shoes that they are wearing, and
Mm-hmm.
your experience, let's say, being called O'Bruni versus mine, etc., and someone
Mm-hmm.
else's
Mm-hmm.
could be vastly different. And I
Mm-hmm.
think we get caught up a lot of times in so many small details
Yeah.
that we'll take that and run with it. Like someone is in the chat saying that's not a derogatory. Well, he hadn't walked in your shoes to know if that's derogatory for you or
Oh,
not.
it was derogatory, and I've heard it
Right, but I'm
derogatory
saying
several
in
times.
his
Yes.
exactly. So
Yes.
I think it's different. Even when they use the word too, mzungu,
Mm-hmm.
which is a word that you may find commonly across the continent as well,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and how they describe foreigners
Or a
as well.
kata. Or a kata,
Right.
which
And
is
so
cotton
I think
picker.
a lot of it comes from culture, as you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned earlier, and not knowing about the outside world.
Yes.
And so we use certain terms
Mm-hmm.
because we have educated people like myself that use some words that people wouldn't like. But when I
Yes.
use the words, I use it to fit the situation and the person
Yes.
based off your behavior.
Yes. 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 Yes.
So, I think that we have to, just clarify that. But no,
Mm-hmm.
you have to speak your truth too, because people want a lot of times give the auspices of this grandiose thing. But at
Yes.
the same time, we're not saying, oh, even whatever your, let's say, negative ills that you may be experiencing there, you're still there. And we're all the onlookers who are talking about your negative experience.
Mm-hmm.
See that?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So obviously you still love the place.
Of
So I think
course.
I think
Of
of
course.
course, of
Of
course, but
course.
people don't necessarily see it that way.
Yeah.
People don't see
No,
it
no,
that way.
no.
If you're
I
still
do love
there,
it. And like I said, I mean, once you get to understand the culture and how things go, how people run, you're coming into a place that's been running long before America was even thought of. This place, this is dynasties. This is, centuries upon centuries of this place being
you better
here. Long
stop.
before any of us, long before America was thought of. So you got to understand you're coming into a system that has been going on for a very long time, and people operating for a certain way for a very long time. So that's why it's important that you come with an open mind. You've got to shed everything that not everything, but you've got to shed a lot of the thoughts and ideas that you've been given in America when coming here, and understand, like, okay, this is how these people operate. How do I manage and integrate myself in this without disrespecting the culture, but also gently showing a different way of doing things to help them to be better? And the thing is
Agreed.
not everybody's going to accept that you helping them to be a little bit better either. So you've got to understand where your place is in the grand scheme of things. So just like when I had to figure out, okay, they're not raised to say no. Okay, this is why if you stop and ask for directions, they tell you and you end up 10 miles away from where you were trying to get to. It's not that they were trying to be, disrespectful
Malicious. Exactly.
or shady or anything like that. It's just that they're afraid to say no because that would look bad upon them. Instead, they don't think that, you telling me the wrong direction is making you look bad, right? I had a situation where a friend of mine, I'm the type of person, a lie is a lie if it's by omission, if it's straight, or if you don't do what you said you were going to do. If you said you was going to show up at 10 o'clock and you don't show up at all, you just lied to me. That's how I perceive a lie. So, but to
Hmm.
them, we had a whole argument. I was like, you lie. You are not to be trusted. In their
Mhm.
culture, no,
Mhm.
I just didn't show up. No,
Mhm.
but that's
Mhm.
normal. And I'm like, that's
Mhm.
crazy to me, you know. But so these are the little things that you have to be like, you know. So in my mind, to me, I was like, what the hell's wrong with you people? But when she told me that, I was like, aha, I get it.
Mhm. Mhm.
It
And you know what's
changed.
interesting with that too
Hmm.
is that also falls into just how people talk about Dr. Davis, a culture shock.
Yes.
That would play into it because if I don't know why you're hesitant to say no, or I
Yep.
can't say no,
Yep.
all of these extra things are like, why wouldn't you just say no?
But they
You
can.
know what
They,
I'm so all
yep.
of that will fall into it. I think
Yep.
when people talk about going to different countries and living there, because as
Uh
you
huh.
know, a lot of times when you're just visiting for two
It's
weeks
very
or a
different.
month, you're not going to be able to experience that kind of a culture shock. It's going to be when you have supplanted yourself there,
Yep. Yep.
dealing day to day with each other. If I'm dealing with you day to day, I'm like, oh, she in DC, she kind of cuckoo or
Yep.
whatever,
Mhm.
but like that, I think that
Mhm.
that matters because all that's going to fall into culture, and for
Mhm.
yourself,
Mhm.
there's subcultures within the culture.
That's true. Yep. That's true. That's true.
So I think all of that understanding over time. Well,
Mhm.
and that's if people are receptive. A lot of times, just in my travels,
Yeah.
we as Americans, as you know, you're a traveler,
Yep.
we have become so pompous with our own ideologies that
Oh.
we can't
Oh.
see the forest for
Very.
the trees.
Very much so. Very much so. Yep.
So
And I
yeah.
tell people, that's why I tell people you've got to let go of your ideas, you know, that you bring from America, because it's going to make your transition hard. It's really going to make things difficult for you. And I've seen people come here and then they turn around and go right back
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
they just cannot take it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. The culture shock gets them. All right, now the
It's
last and final questions,
hmm
and then we take some questions, and
okay.
you can answer. Tell
Okay.
us about the weather, the seasons, and land ownership.
Okay. All right. So those are some good ones. So the weather is generally the equivalent of about 80 to 85 degrees year round. Now, rainy season, it's a little bit different. So rainy season, you don't have four seasons like you have in the States, right? It's, you have rainy season, which is March to, oh gosh, you guys don't quote me exactly, but it's March to August. Yeah, March to August, I believe. And then you have, yeah, March to August. So it's cooler then. So it gets to like maybe 70. Yeah, 70, 75. Okay. And it's beautiful. It's wonderful. I live like near a mountain. I open all my windows and the breeze comes through. It's wonderful. But the rain now, y'all better bring some boots, rain boots, because I always say, literally, when it rains here, it's like the sky just opens up and somebody turns on a faucet and the water's just running, running. It's not like drops. It's it's like water is literally pouring from the sky. And unfortunately, as we talk about in the States about climate change and so forth, um, it has become it's affecting Ghana as well, even though it's warm all the time. But the rainy season is extending, and it's also a little less predictable, as far as when it's going to rain. So that's one of the things that I've noticed in the year and a half that I've been here, actually. But it's generally very nice. The funny thing, this is just it cracks me up. You'll see, like, on the cooler during the rainy season and the cooler days, it's like 75 degrees outside. To us, it's like, oh, this is just supreme. It's wonderful weather. But to them, it's freezing. So you'll see them walking around with like puffy jackets on, like those coats we wear in the winter to go skiing and stuff like that. So it's pretty hilarious. And they'll wear turtlenecks and all kinds of stuff. So we're like, it is hot outside. What are they doing? But to them, it's freezing. So that's just kind of a funny thing. So you don't necessarily have seasons or like, where the weather changes per se. You just have rainy season, which, just rains a lot. And that's like a lot of people who live in the more rural areas, they look forward to that because that's when they fill their water tanks. And if you have like two big tanks, it rains enough to fill those, and that will last you throughout the year. So that's another thing about here is you have in the cities, you have city water, but most places have water tanks, and they have water trucks that come and fill up your tanks for you whenever you need it. Land ownership. Okay. Whoo, this is an interesting. It gets really convoluted, but I'll try to break it down as best as I can. Okay. So as a foreigner coming in, nobody actually owns land. It's basically leased. So you, as a foreigner coming in, you can get a 50-year lease on land. For a citizen, you can get a 99-year lease. Now, the funny thing about Ghana is there are many laws on the books, but a lot of them are not enforced. So I have not heard of, and I'm not going to say that it is, that this is absolutely true, but I have not heard of anyone losing their land when their lease comes to the end or anything like that. I know for citizens, the land is just passed on to generation, generation, generation. I have been lucky because I've been adopted into a family that there is family land, and now I am part owner of that land. So I was very blessed in that sense. So if when whoever comes after me, the land will be, passed on to that person. So now purchasing land, whew, that is another issue in itself. So you find land, you have to go to the land commission to find out who is the original owner of the land. Most land is governed by a chief. And the chiefs are the ones that decide, okay, we have these plots of land, we will sell them. Now, the other issue that comes up is that you always have a real estate person or land person who is helping to negotiate the sale of the land. And they can get a little greedy and they'll promise the land to this person over here and this person over there and this person over there. And you might be the fifth person in line, and they will have collected money from several people. And then you will end up losing your money or losing your land. Even my brother, who is a Ghanaian himself, is going through a situation right now where he had purchased some land and somebody came along and sold the land. So he is fighting to keep his land. So you really have to do your due diligence on making sure that the land is free and clear and that it is sellable and that you are able to purchase it. There are several diasporans that I know of right now who are becoming land brokers in order to help expats get through the land purchase process a lot more seamless. And so there are different opportunities there, excuse me, for you to purchase land. So I think that's all that I can say about that. Excuse me.
Okay, okay. No, that was a wealth and breadth of information. Now we will take a few questions from the viewers. Now I will post them on your bottom of your screen. So here was the first one. This was back when we first started.
Oh, the company for my international healthcare. I had Aetna plan. And Cigna has a plan as well. And I'll say that I canceled my Aetna plan just because I was still in Ghana. I was staying in Ghana, and the healthcare, everything I needed was pretty affordable. But I will say this, that the Cigna plan seems to be more accepted in more places here in Ghana. So I didn't go with that one because it was maybe about, I want to say it was uh maybe a few hundred dollars more, but it's worth it if you can afford it because, like I said, it's the Cigna plan is accepted in more places. Also, If
Go ahead.
you have a life insurance plan, I know someone who has a life insurance plan, and if you have the right life insurance broker, because most life insurances won't cover you if you're living primarily in another country, but you got to have the right person to kind of change the wording the right way in order to be covered. And it will cover health care in places too. So check
Okay,
with your insurance broker.
you mentioned Cigna, and that was one of the ones that I knew, as well as, I don't know if you're familiar with Bupa International. Bupa International is also worldly renowned just in terms of being an international provider
Okay.
for, let's say, medical insurance. And of course, there's similar to Cigna, it will go upon which areas you're saying that you're going to use the plan in. And of
hmm
course, if you try to use it in the States, we
hmm
all know what time it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
But
yeah,
there is a
yeah.
site called Now Health where you can go and look at expat health insurance,
Okay,
FYI.
that's a good.
Oh,
Good bit of information to have. Oh, and thank you for telling me 1,000 CDs is 100 is 163. My math wasn't that good at that moment, so thank you very much. Yeah.
all right. And someone also had a comment here. It was
hmm
more of a comment versus a question, and I'm scrolling back down, but go ahead.
Uh, so most of us Americans don't understand the system we're in either. So many people are shocked when they are 1 day late on the rent and get a large late fee plus an eviction. Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, like, there's so many things I think we just kind of move through life. And that's the thing about getting to a place from just surviving. Most people in America are just surviving. And you don't, and you don't even understand what thriving is. And thriving is being educated and understanding everything that you are dealing with. You're just surviving. You're like, okay, I got to go to this job that I hate. I got to pay this rent. You don't have time to think about all the little things or whatever. And yeah, it's like, you worried about being evicted. You worried about having to pay the late fees. There's a lot of things that people don't understand that you deal with in America. My brother and I were just having a conversation about having a car in America. And he was saying, you got to pay for parking. Why do you have to pay for parking? it was, it was so funny because I'm teaching them like what it's like to be in America, and they're just amazed every time I bring
Yes.
up something. They're like, "What? You got to pay for that? You got to think
And
about
please
that?"
do,
So it's
because we
just so
need to
many
give
little
them that
things that we
knowledge.
just take for granted or don't realize that are impacting our mental and emotional and physical health.
It is really interesting because it's those like minute details that they don't really know about because no one is really talking about
Yeah.
that. But you are so right. Something as minuscule as parking. And I'll give you something here. The UAE, paying for parking is new here.
Really?
Real talk, really.
Okay.
I started coming here about 17 years ago.
hmm
You could park anywhere. Now you couldn't
hmm
park illegally, meaning like if your car was not facing the correct right of way in terms of the traffic direction and all
Okay.
that. But
Okay.
all this paying for slots,
Right.
somebody said, "Hey, you're missing some money,"
Yeah.
and now it's paying for parking. This is so it's fairly new here too.
Okay.
And so when I came back and I noticed that they were charging for parking, I said, "What in the
What?
what has gone on here?"
Right.
But of course, they generating revenue, a,
Yeah.
a, a revenue stream for the
Yeah.
municipalities, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
So totally understand. Okay, someone has a question here.
Okay.
Okay, Sherry said, Kwaku wanted to know if you're planning to build.
Hey, Sherry. um, actually, yes, I am. I am planning to build with my family. I'm working on building my mom and grandmother a little cottage right now. But there's some land, like I said, that is family owned, and so we're looking to just try to decide what we're going to do with it.
Okay, okay,
hmm
okay.
hmm
Let's see. I don't see anything. I think they're talking amongst each other.
Don't let that
Oh,
be.
oh, they're talking. No, they're talking about COVID tests.
Oh, okay. COVID test.
COVID
Okay.
tests and being limited. for traveling. I haven't had any issues with that, but
Mm-mm.
hey,
Yeah.
I haven't had any
So
issues.
I just came back from the States in August. And so yeah, definitely, you still have to have the COVID test before you board, and you have to take your COVID test when you get back in when you come into Ghana. Make sure you um make sure you prepay for your test, because it just kind of holds you up. It holds up the line. So because you can pay once you get here, but be mindful, some airlines will not let you get on if you do not have the receipt where you prepaid. Because what I learned when I first came is, see, Ghana was fining airlines if they were letting people on the plane without a negative COVID test, and then they put in the prepaid system for you to pay for your test when you got here, and they were like fining people. So please try to make sure that you have your COVID test, in order, and especially be mindful if you have a long layover in another country, because that's been getting people as well. Excuse me.
Now you are so right about these layovers, especially
Hmm.
for people who are transiting through. I've heard some people getting hemmed up in Turkey,
Oh,
because of
really?
the layover. Yes, because the
It's
layover
a
is so
long layover.
long, like what you're talking about, and then the
Uh,
validity of the test, etc.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I would say or suggest just try to get them as close as you can to the time
Yep.
it's time for you to depart, and then
Exactly.
likely you will not have any issues, if you will.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so
Exactly.
let's see what we have here. Um, blind guy, his wife, the life. Here we go.
Okay. Parking, registrations, taxes, damages, insurance, oil changes, vacuum cleaners, air for tires, parking tickets, He's listed everything. Auto expenses alone in America can be insurmountable. Yes. Yeah. He said his repo. I love it.
Okay, repo for
Yes.
real. Okay.
Yes. Yes. It is a
Okay,
headache.
let's
It is such a
we will
headache.
take a few more.
Okay.
Let's see what Cherie. Listen, okay. So this is what Cherie is saying. As you can
This was a
see,
really good conversation. I feel like we're at brunch. I'm drinking it. So excuse me. She went somewhere and she didn't invite me. I still haven't seen her since she's been back.
get her,
Uh,
get her, get her, get her,
I'm mad at her right now. She done hurt my feelings.
get her,
Because
get her.
we would have been at brunch together this morning. But that's all right.
Yes. So what I'm going to do before we end, I wanted to show the video of you with your CBS morning interview and all of this good stuff. And so, for everyone who has not seen this, please give us a moment and I'm going to share my screen and we are going to watch her interview
Yeah,
that she
thank you.
did. All right, so let's go. Let's go here. Here we go. Let's see. Let's go.
African
There it
country
is.
opening its arms to Black Americans. Ghana's tourism minister began encouraging African Americans to move there in 2019. As Black Lives Matters protests erupted, she said, quote, "You don't have to stay where you're not wanted." Deborah Patta spent time with one American who chose to make Ghana her home.
Ghana's Elmina Castle occupies a dark place in America's history. This used to be a central trading hub where African people from across the continent were bought and sold into slavery. Now, as the U.S. continues to confront its racist past, Ghana is turning that history upside down and welcoming Black Americans back home.
I was living what people would consider the American dream. I was educated, professional, had friends. I was a socialite, but I never felt safe.
Sonjai Davis was the epitome of Washington cool. Connected, successful, a therapist trained to deal with emotional health, and yet she was constantly looking over her shoulder.
There is just so much unrest.
Davis believes trauma is embedded in her DNA, from the transatlantic slave trade to the Tulsa race massacre in 1921, where some of her family were displaced.
I was beginning to take an emotional and psychological toll on me.
The trauma of racism.
It's the trauma. So my immediate thought all the time was, oh my gosh, what if a police officer pulls me over? Am I going to be physically safe? Am I going to come out of it alive?
Then George Floyd was murdered at the hands of a police officer, sparking global outrage that demanded this Black life had to matter.
I was barely holding on. I could feel myself nearing a nervous breakdown. And that's why I made the decision to get out of there.
She had visited Ghana in 2019 during the government's Year of Return campaign, marking 4 centuries after the first slave ship reached Virginia. It attracted a record number of tourists, aiming to convert visitors into residents.
George Floyd's name over there.
Head of the African Diaspora Forum, Eric Bennett, said after the death of George Floyd, they were inundated with inquiries.
Every day we get at least, and this is no exaggeration, at least 300 people saying, how can we relocate to Ghana?
About 5,000 African Americans have made the trip back to Ghana and stayed.
Home is not a place. It's how you feel where you are, the feeling of belonging, the feeling of welcome, and a sense of freedom.
And so, just over a year ago, Sonjai Davis traded her DC home for that sense of freedom.
It felt like a symbol for 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I can't breathe,
Mm-hmm.
George Floyd said, and COVID, people battling. And here you are,
Mm-hmm.
able to breathe.
No, I'm breathing. Yeah, very much so.
Okay.
Her therapy practice is now all online, and while she misses the convenience of modern American life, she's no longer looking over her shoulder.
I feel loved. I feel supported. I feel regarded. I feel like I matter. I don't feel like I'm looked at for the color of my skin. I'm just a person here.
That must be liberating.
Liberating. That is just the utopia of emotion. It feels really good.
And do you feel a connection to Ghana in terms of the historical connection?
It's interesting you asked that question because I have been trying to muster up the ability to go back to the slave castle.
Slave castles on Ghana's Cape Coast are where many Black Americans are able to trace the beginning of that awful journey made by their enslaved ancestors.
I thought I was ready. And walking into the dungeon, I couldn't breathe, but I feel like I need to go again.
That was over a year ago. Today, she's ready to try again. Walking in the shadow of horror, old pain is palpably present here. In these God-forsaken dungeons, captured slaves perished. Only a third made it out alive. This sliver of light facing the Atlantic, their last glimpse of home before being pushed onto ships never to return.
In all likelihood, your ancestors passed through here.
It's heavy. It's really heavy, Deborah. You feel it, though.
And it's made her regard America differently.
As Black Americans, we're starting to come to the realization of our place in America. We're coming to understand that America was really never meant for us to be there as free people.
In a sense, that's why you left America. It's to reclaim yourself.
Exactly. So I know that I am in control of myself, my destiny, my dreams, and everything that I want for myself and that my ancestors wanted for me.
And on a recent trip back to Tulsa, she told them.
I went to the cemetery and told them, hey, I made it. I made it out of here. I made it back. I'm sorry. I made it back. I got out of here.
Right. For those of you who want to catch the rest of the interview, you can click the link in the description and it is on there. It is on there. But I enjoyed the interview myself.
Thank you.
It was really, really good. And you portrayed yourself very well, which I didn't expect anything.
Thank
So
you.
let me say that. But I want to thank you for joining us today and giving us your insight into Ghana. I know that there are a lot of interviews with those from the diaspora who have come back to Ghana and they're giving their different take
Yeah.
on the country itself. As you know, we're not a monolith. Everyone is different.
Different.
And
Yep.
so I just want to thank you for joining me today. We finally
I
got it.
I
We finally
appreciate
got
you.
it.
I appreciate you having me. I
Yes,
really
yes. Now I'm gonna unless you want to stay here because I'm getting ready to get into some of these comments.
okay.
Okay. Now
I
you
would
and I are gonna
love
be
to.
here for the I got to read and see what's going on over here.
I would love to stay.
Okay, well sure. Okay, okay. Now, Eric B says,
Everything,
after
nothing.
all of that with George Floyd, the marching protests and everything, nothing really changed here in America. Unlike for Asians, where they have of course not. This is
Yeah.
why. Now, listen, the views expressed here does not necessarily mean these are Dr. Davis' views. So I need to
Exactly.
preface that, okay?
Yeah.
This is why I talk about these votings and all this stuff
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
our ancestors have been voting since '64.
Forever. Mhm. Yep. Yep. And this is why I tell people, I had to make a decision for myself because I've been a part of the protesting and marching and the voting and the being an activist, and I worked on Capitol Hill. I did all that trying to be a part of the change process. But reality hit me like I'll be 50 in January, Liz. I don't have much life to live, much more life to live. So I want to enjoy the rest of the life that I have to live. So if you
Well,
want to stay over there and continue to, participate and march and so on and so forth, good for you. Good. Maybe it will help change, but I'm just tapped out. Me personally,
yeah,
I just
yeah,
don't have any more left to give, knowing that it's not going to change in my lifetime.
no,
It's
and
not
that's
going
the
to it's
sad.
not going to completely turn around in my lifetime. So I'm gonna leave it to the younger people. Y'all got some more energy than I have. You just keep on going. But until then, I'm getting up out of there and I'm gonna go somewhere where I can, be at least at some semblance of peace.
Okay, okay. We have a question here for you from Kwame.
Uh-huh. Let's see. What will you change immediately in Ghana when the opportunity avails itself? Oh, so my thing is mental health. So I am definitely because people think that I'm moving around because my battery's about to die, y'all. I have figured out that colonialism or colonization was just as damaging as slavery. And there are a lot of mental health issues here. And so my thing is helping the people here in Ghana understand how they have been negatively impacted, and how it's impacting their mental and emotional health, and even down to marriage and relationships. That's another
Mhm,
big issue. People think,
mhm,
oh, Africans are all about family and marriage and so on and so forth. It's a whole lot of toxic stuff going on in these situations here. So,
mhm,
a lot of it stems from insecurity and personal self growth issues. So that is my platform.
mhm, mhm. I like that. I like that. Just because, um, like you said earlier, just as a people, we don't really deal with mental health like we should because
Mm-hmm.
we're always trying to take things to the church.
Yep.
And I'm sorry to tell you, folks, that ain't it.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
you
Yep.
need to get a
Yep.
professional,
Well,
a
and then,
professional.
that's one thing I can say. I'm kind of happy about churches in America, that the pastors are starting to understand that hey, people need real doctors, real
Yes,
professional help.
real professionals.
They need real professional help, and they are getting out of their own egos and getting out of the way of themselves and their people, and and incorporating. That was some of the work I did in America, was working through churches, and with pastors who were open to that process and incorporating real mental health services along with people's faith.
And I think a lot of that stems from too the tide with the changing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if your parishioners are consistently mentally sick, they can't come in there and you're trying to keep your collection plates full.
Right,
See,
right,
so
right,
when people tend to feel better, you know this for yourself as a therapist. When we tend to feel better about ourselves, we do
right.
more in
Yep,
all facets of our
yep.
lives. So I think that means something.
That's true.
All right, we don't have any more. I think
Yep,
that was the
that's
only
true.
one that I saw. Oh, Cherie is giving you kudos here.
I got it, my loop. She's very eloquent in her speech. She's the real deal. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, dear.
Well, again, I want to say thank you so much for joining us today. We are over an hour and a half. I do value people's time. Um,
Thank you.
and I'll see you soon.
Okay, I hope you coming down here
I'll
soon.
see you soon. Now
All
I
right,
moves I moves in stealth mode. I moves in stealth mode.
yeah. Okay, I
Never,
know you do.
as the old
If
folks
I'm
say,
looking
never
up
let
and
your
Liz
right
is
hand
all
know what your
somewhere
left
else.
hand is doing.
That's true. That is true, girl. That is true. I love
So
you.
yes,
All right, I look forward to seeing you soon.
thank you so much. And I'm gonna take us out. We're gonna have some music, and then we're gonna go out.
Thank you. All
So
right.
I hope that everyone
Thank you,
has,
everyone.
because we are about to go. See how I like that? Please remember to
Bye.
thank you all for tuning in. And for those of you who would catch the replay, remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Lizzabitty is what?